save it to the desk. Hey, Mike.
Steven,
How are you?
how are you doing?
Got a lot going on tonight.
Situation normal.
Yeah, about 6 different meetings
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I know policy was meeting.
Policy is just breaking up.
Yeah.
We just finished with dismissal of parents.
Okay.
And we've got 2 great topics tonight.
Did you see this cartoon? You see what this is? It's Boris Badenov from Rocky and Bullwinkle.
How you doing, Ernie?
I'm good. Yourself?
Good.
Hey, Sherelle.
I spoke to you earlier, but you had your head down.
I did?
You were reading.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I didn't take it personal.
Lost in the iPhone.
I've been there a few times.
Yeah. At least you're not one of those people that walks into a fountain or something.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that rarely has the phone with me, but when it's with me, it's with me.
Yeah.
What do you think? I think that thing sounded really good.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get a chance to read the curriculum. It sounds good.
Yeah, it's a good experience with that.
Especially they're so strict and they
Mm-hmm.
teach them.
Some discipline.
Did they ever resolve? Because I know she was concerned with
Evening, Eric.
How you doing, Eric?
I'm well, Ernie. How are you?
Heidi, Shirley, and Mike were all in policy.
I didn't see Mike.
Mike's here, they're coming.
Okay.
Was he in the policy?
Yeah, Mike, Shirley, and Heidi are all on
Okay.
the way.
Yeah,
So
I'll
they
wait till,
broke away.
wait until they're all here and then we start.
Makes sense.
Brian's not coming.
Yes.
He's buried in tax season.
And it's so crazy. Like I got 3 texts today. Like,
We'll wait till they get here.
would I? But I didn't. I didn't respond.
Right.
I said, let me be nice.
Do you have a
Let me
resolution?
just type a note. Thank you.
No, I didn't do anything. I just left it. I was like, I didn't even bother
Yeah.
Okay, great.
to respond. I can't remember if I put
And
2.
then Frank is just going to announce based on the snow days when the last day of school is and the
This
graduation.
was supposed to be my lunch, and then I forgot I made a lunch date with someone.
Hi. Is the policy committee open?
Yeah.
We'll wait for them to
I
come.
was wondering if it was Mancos,
Oh,
right?
yeah. And I mean,
should have
we were
known.
anticipating the first 2 items taking a lot less, and they ended up being a much
I
more robust
haven't
discussion.
eaten. I was so
It
hungry.
is what it is. So, I think
Before I
that
dig
Artie's
in,
got-
Yeah, I thought.
Artie's got his munchies.
I think what
to-
and I was
Yeah,
just briefly mentioning.
But I haven't done anything. If
We'll
anybody
move it to
got
the
the
first action
healthy
item
snack.
when we have it next time.
trying.
So that way,
know
if we
if
run
you
into a
want
situation
something
where that
before
takes a
No,
long
I
time,
just,
to
I
talk
had a
about,
meeting
which
with our special.
in just the
affairs
short time I was reviewing what they provided, there are some
Before I dig in.
definite areas
Yeah,
of
really
improvement.
are.
Yeah. But we gotta look right. Usually,
You've got the
Because
healthy.
I do believe that this is probably
I've got the healthy.
generated by
But
cisgendered,
there are times I have what's good
experienced
to me and
individuals,
not
so,
what's good for 'em.
and policymakers. So,
But not today. I have
but
to
this
have
is a real
something else.
opportunity.
Shop right?
No,
excited.
I went to the, me? No, I went to Whole Foods. It took my whole freaking paycheck.
Whole Foods mean your whole pay.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it begins with this one, and we really can look at this when we're also looking at what currently exists, and then expanding upon that as has always been my
Yeah, like,
intention. So,
then
and
I
I'm
can
excited
turn
about
right
that.
into it.
We just need
Especially if you're
time and
public.
dedication.
I put myself away from heated discussions.
Okay. No, no problem. I got, no, what I'll do is I'll,
So we don't have to.
I mean, they did the presentation.
So now we're looking into you know,
That's, yeah, these are the handouts.
Camera's not on.
you know,
Read.
And it is.
You know, and I
that's
mean,
what my boss like, because I'm very, I pick up on little things, that's what some people think is annoying, but it's not. My phone, and I just think about that.
no, and I mean, I think the thing that's good is that once this also gets rolled out, to just like we
Next meeting.
should be doing with all policies, and in some cases we do, some cases we don't. You know, continued engagement with the school community, so we see what's working, what's not, and I think that that's something that we'll continue to build upon, especially now that we see more stability that we're getting to, at least in some areas,
Yeah.
with actual people in positions. The only ones that regularly change can change are us, so. Or should be regularly changing, I should say. How's your week been, Artie? Good. Good.
No good deed.
I'm optimistic.
In the midst of funerals and weddings and things like that, it's good. I could get called for a funeral at any moment.
What if that was their,
Like that.
That's true.
So I had a 2-hour meeting.
What do we have tonight? It's nothing really big.
That's not, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I had a guy, because his heart attack rushed him to go to the hospital. Remember I wasn't here? 3 weeks.
That's right, I remember.
Gave her a hospital open heart surgery. Actually died on the table. So came back.
Oh,
No, they don't have.
So yeah,
yep,
good week so far.
I understand.
I need to get these in my calendar.
3 close friends.
Find
One of them is my goddaughter.
anything happen after.
No.
That's
Two of them. Sorry.
Well, I think we might as well start. I don't know where Mike and Heidi are. They're in the building.
It's 10 after. We have,
I'm gonna start.
yeah, we have a quorum.
All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our first item of business under the business section is designation of the month of April as Autism Awareness Month. There's a resolution in the packet. I'm just going to quickly read this for the record. To bring awareness to the issues surrounding autism and autism spectrum disorder, the Norwalk Board of Education is proud to recognize April as National Autism Awareness Month. Autism spectrum disorder and autism are both general terms for a group of complex disorders of brain development. A developmental disorder, autism impacts the social, communication, and behavioral skills of those affected by it. Autism affects all races, ethnicities, and social groups. As more health professionals become proficient in diagnosing autism, more children are being diagnosed on the spectrum, resulting in rates as high as 1 in 68 children nationally. Autism appears to have its roots in very early brain development. The most obvious signs of autism tend to emerge between 2 and 3 years of age. While there is no cure for autism, individuals with autism lead significantly improved lives with early treatment. As a result, increasing autism awareness is extremely important. Norwalk families, in partnership with schools, local organizations, and government institutions, play an invaluable role in sharing information and support. Links to local resources for Norwalk parents, including information for Norwalk SPED partners, and the Association of Parents of Exceptional Children and Siblings can be found on the Norwalk Public Schools website. By declaring April as Autism Awareness Month, the Board of Education encourages the community to learn more about recognizing and responding to the signs of autism. Chair would entertain a motion to approve. So moved. Seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All right. Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of approving the resolution? And that is unanimous. Thank you. Item B is confirmation of end-of-year and graduation schedule. Frank Stanzo.
I think Frank is wherever
Policy.
There he is.
there he
That would
is.
be Frank.
Okay.
You're on, Frank. You got
while
to tell us
he's,
about the schedule.
While he's coming up, I would just mention that Ms. Harris and I had the opportunity to be with a number of our families last evening for the lighting of the East Norwalk gazebo in blue. to celebrate Autism Awareness Month. And it was a very nice event, and many families and students were there. Okay, Mr. Costanzo, you know, we're done with snow days now, and
You hope.
Knock on wood.
so Mr. Costanzo is going to give you the end of the school year date, as well as the dates for graduation. Once these are read tonight, the graduation dates become volatile because people are going to plan around their schedules and their family schedules around these.
Okay, good evening, Board. So the date that all students have been waiting to hear, the last day of school is Wednesday, June 14th, 2017, provided we have no more snow days, inclement weather, which we're feeling pretty good about at this point. As has been the case in the past, our middle school promotions will take place on Monday, June 12th. All 4 middle schools will graduate at 6 p.m. on Monday, June 12th. That day, district-wide, will be a regular, normal dismissal day. On Tuesday, June 13th, Brian McMahon High School will graduate at 6 p.m., and all schools will run on a 2-hour early dismissal. And Wednesday, June 14th, Norwalk High School will graduate at 6 p.m. Again, all schools will dismiss 2 hours early. This practice is a bit different from what we had prior to last year. If you remember last year, we went to 2 early dismissal days as opposed to 5 early dismissal days for high schools at the end of the year. And that was due in part to the block schedule that the high schools implemented last year, which allows administrators and teachers to do final exams in longer blocks of instructional time. A couple of special notes. This is a 181 school day year. Middle school students will return after the promotion on Monday, June 12th for the last day of school. Lunch will again be provided to all students through Wednesday, June 14th. And on the early dismissal days for students, teachers will have full days. I will be communicating this out to principals. Principals will be informing their staffs, and we are expecting a smooth end to the school year. Okay?
Any
Thank you.
questions? Looks good. Make sure we don't have any more snow.
I'm gonna move the item.
All right, it's been moved. Is there a second to approve the schedule? It's second. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate. Final schedule is approved. Thank you, Frank. All right, we're now going to enter the work session, which starts with summer learning plans for 2017, and then a report on food service. Dr. Adamowski, take it away.
Thank you. So we have 2 important items tonight. Both relate directly to the goals you set for the year relative to our strategic operating plan. And the summer school, we'll discuss first. This room does not lend itself to a workshop presentation because we've got a podium and one person as opposed to a table where they can have a discussion with the board, but we're going to do the best we can. This was a very large planning team, and one of the reasons for that this year was the fact that it was our goal to align the special education ESY program with regular summer school, which is known as the Norwalk Summer Academy. It was also a goal to expand the academy by a grade from K3 to grade 4. And so we have more grades served. We're going to try our best to do this a grade each year, with 5th grade next year. But a lot of planning has gone into this ESY alignment. And Ms. Helgenthaler and I have had several meetings with parents of special needs students who qualify for ESY in order to get their input and feedback from last year, address those concerns, but also to be able to use them as a sounding board and advisory group to some of the plans for this year. And they have been very helpful, very constructive. We have learned a lot. I think we have a design that is going to be far ahead of where we were last year as a result of their involvement. So I want to thank them up front. So Michael, you and your team are going to take the board through a set of slides. I think all board members have these, and there are copies for the public to follow along if you would like. But, you know, I would just preface it by saying that summer learning is becoming an increasingly important part of education in Norwalk. Tomorrow, Norwalk Acts is going to have a press conference and unveil Team Summer and all the coordination of summer learning opportunities for children that they are doing. Our learning opportunities are focused on those students who need help in English language arts the most. This is essentially a Tier 3 intervention for them, and those students with special needs who, as a result of their ESY requirements in their IEP, are viewed to be subject to regression if they did not have summer learning. So if you believe the most recent research on this, it suggests that 50% of the achievement gap is due to differences among students of different income levels relative to summer learning. And so if you take that conclusion, you have to conclude that we cannot close the achievement gap. We'll not be able to close the achievement gap without a significant commitment to summer learning for those students who need it the most. So with that as introduction, Dr. Connor, if you could share some of the plans for this summer with the board and for their reaction and input.
Good evening, Dr. Adamowski, Board of Education, and tonight we're going to present our proposed plan for the Norwalk Summer Academy. Our committee has been meeting since November. Subcommittees have been meeting once a month, as well as with the large committee around the architectural construct and the design of the Norwalk Summer Academy. We are planning to enhance our kindergarten through grade 3, Tier 3 intervention experience, as well as the expansion for grade 4. Also, there's an intentional integration with the extended school year program, as well as an extended day program for our NSA as well as ESY students. So our subcommittee chairs are here today to unwrap or unpack the major components, especially the new program elements that we have integrated into the Norwalk Summer Academy experience. So we're going to have Ms. Janine Goss present the K-3, Tier 3 intervention component, as well as the expansion or the new innovation around grade 4.
Good evening. So I want to highlight for you some of the program components and some of the enhancements that Dr. Adamowski and Dr. Connor spoke about. And I really have to thank my subcommittee, because we have been working since maybe December or January, meeting monthly. Margie Gillis, Dr. Margie Gillis from from Literacy How, Rhonda Keast and Christina Matos from Stepping Stones, Patty Foley from NPS, Zakia Baker, principal at Kendall, has been working with us, Tricia Masuko, After the Bell, NPS, as well as Pam Augustine Jefferson. So we've really started to engage in reflection from last year. And we really appreciated, too, the feedback that we received. And so many of the program elements that you're going to hear about will reflect some of those changes that we made based on the feedback. So as you know, the State Department of Education requires us to hold a summer academy for our students in the well below benchmark range. But you should also know that we are really focusing in a very intentional manner throughout the school year to reduce the number of students who are in that well below benchmark range by implementing the priority goals of CK3LI. So as Dr. Adamowski said, Goal 2 of the Strategic Operating Plan is to establish a summer academy, and we will do that for 6 weeks. And as you can see here, here are our dates. We begin on June 26th, and on August 3rd. It's a 6-week program, 24 days of instruction. So throughout the school year, our students are universally screened 3 times a year, as well as progress monitored. so that we can determine their response to instruction. And in January, what we did was we did administer DIBELS for K-3, and we administered the NWEA MAP testing in grade 4 that Diane Filardo, our Director of Testing and Accountability, spoke about at the last Board of Education meeting, I believe. And we've identified the number of students with those cut scores in K-3 for DIBELS, and then we used NWEA, and we established the 20th percentile and below to be considered substantially deficient. So those are the numbers that you see reflected here. So based on, and this is just an estimate, based on our January data, we have 695 students, K-4, who are required to attend the summer academy. However, you should know that we had a similar number last year at this time, and there is a lot of time in between January and June for learning. So we cut that number in half last year, and so we hope to do that and even better. So this way we can actually invite other students to attend.
Jean,
because
I
it
think
really
the
is a wonderful
clarification that
program.
would be meaningful to the board is that it was a similar number for K-3. Now we have a similar number for K-4, which means the
Right.
number of students needing it in K-3 has gone down, which is a very good indicator.
Absolutely. Families were notified of this the week of February 13th, so we actually were 2 months ahead of the game than we were last year. They were notified about their child's scores and the possibility of attending the summer academy. So in keeping with CK3LI's priority goals, what we're going to do, similar to last year, is group students according to their instructional profiles so that we can really target the instruction. There will be one teacher and one paraprofessional for each classroom of a group of 15 to 18 students in their own schools. So that will remain the same. I want to share with you some of the components, very similar to last year with some enhancements. We are going to intentionally balance the curriculum components so that we can provide students with access to ELA content in a very differentiated manner. So our theme this year, as you remember last year was rainforest, our theme this year is healthy children, healthy communities. So students will be learning a lot about things like nutrition and physical fitness and the food shed and the ecosystems, things like that, and building background knowledge. And their daily schedule will actually include all of these components. Whole group instruction, 25 minutes where teachers are reading aloud, focusing on vocabulary and comprehension in a highly scaffolded approach. Small group instruction in that station rotation model is about 60 minutes, where students will receive direct instruction from the classroom teacher, as well as work on intelligent software so that they can continue to connect with text at their levels, and then do some follow-through activities. We also have those authentic performance tasks for 35 minutes. Those are those problem-solving, unpredictable challenges that students will be confronted with. An example that I might give you would be have students create a recipe, a healthy recipe for people with a particular allergy, let's say, and they have to problem solve through that. We're going to have 20 minutes of independent reading and conferring where the teacher will collect qualitative data about the students' reading behaviors, as well as progress monitor with more formal measures such as DIBELS. We will also have our inclusion period where we will partner with our ESY students and have that engagement period where they will do some arts and crafts and have some recreational games as well as lunch. And my special education colleagues will talk more about that in a few minutes. I should also mention that teachers will be engaged in data meetings every week, similar to last year. So this way they can adjust their instructional strategies and see what the response to instruction has been. And this is basically to sum up all of the new innovations for this year. We talked about the grade 4 expansion. We talked about that new data point from NWEA for eligibility. We're looking at the 20th percentile and below. I want to talk a little bit about Myon. Remember when I said about the intelligent software? Myon is going to be very much concentrated in grade 4 this year. It's a digital platform which sort of looks like Netflix for reading. And so what happens is students take a short online assessment when they first start the program, and it populates with books that are in their sweet spot, which means it takes their Lexile level, which is a scientific way to measure the reader and measure the reading material, and it sort of populates books that are about 100 Lexile levels below and 50 above, so that we can continue to keep kids connected with text and track their Lexile growth throughout the 6 weeks. We have increased 20 to 24 days of instruction as opposed to the 20 days last year. And likewise, we've increased training for staff to 5 days instead of 3. Some of the feedback we received was that the teachers and paraprofessionals wanted to receive the same instruction, the same training. Last year, we differentiated it, so we want to make sure that we're reaching both the paraprofessionals and the teachers with the same components. A new feature this year is an orientation day for families and students to make sure that we've got that homeschool connection in place and increased communication. That'll happen sometime in June. And lunch and recreation, we had said for all students. And then I have other colleagues here too that are going to talk to you about that optional enrichment experience after the summer academy ends. Any questions about those components?
Janine, what about Cranberry School? Are those kids going to be somewhere else since that school is going to be closed?
Yes. So we are going to hold summer academy at 11 locations. Cranberry will be with Wolf Pit.
And will the kids be mixed or they'll be kept separate?
I believe they'll be kept separate.
And last year, I know, and maybe that was because it was the first year, some kids I knew maybe weren't notified at this point in time, but kind of right at the end of the school year found out. Is that still a possibility, or is this more structured now that that's less likely to happen?
Well, we did notify, as I said, families February 13th that week, right? But that was based on MOI data. And we hope, because we're progress monitoring all along, that there really should be no surprises. And we've alerted every family that even if your child is not required to attend, we may invite them to attend. So we wanted to make sure we got those dates out in time, because we still want to be able to reach those students who are not in the well below benchmark range. Because, as I've said before, even if students are in that green benchmark range, all that means is that they have an 80 to 90% chance of reaching the next benchmark with good core instruction. So we want to make sure that we're reaching and casting that net a bit wider. So we want to reduce the number of students that are required, and then we want to be able to also invite.
How many teachers will you have in this?
So we're looking at probably about 50 teachers and 50 paraprofessionals, so 50 classrooms total. That will service about 700 to 750 students.
And then as part of this kind of health theme, healthy nutrition and so forth, who's going to help? You know, we do have this wellness committee that I'm a board member that sits on. Would they be potentially engaged, or what? How are you planning to cultivate this curriculum?
So right now, we're partnering with Stepping Stones. They have their Healthyville theme going on right now. They also have an exhibit that we're hopefully going to be able to make use of as well. And so they're going to be able to provide us with the reading material, with the hands-on materials for the APTs, and provide the training for teachers and staff. Yeah.
And when you look at these students that are going, you could see at one school in particular, it really seems like a disproportionate percentage relative to some other schools. Is that because of a high ELL component, or what could be driving that?
So, good question. These numbers do represent all ELL students and special education students that did not qualify for ESY. So we want to include everyone, not just regular education students. We do want to make sure our ELL students also have access to this intervention.
Wouldn't they be kind of the naturals for some of this?
Say that again?
Wouldn't they be some of the naturals, ELL kids, that you're not at
Sure,
grade level?
absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely. And that will be part of the training as well, ELL strategies. Yeah.
Okay.
We want to meet kids where they are and be able to provide that instruction in order to close some of those gaps over the summer.
Thanks.
You just not to lose your point, though, the schools that are lowest performing are reflective of having larger numbers proportionally. So I think you can recall last year when we talked about the lowest performing schools that would receive special intervention from the district. It was Kendall and Tracy. So it would not be unusual at this point to see this is kind of a remnant of historical situation at Kendall, where they were the lowest performing school and had the lowest results in English language arts. So I think the school is moving out of that, but there is still a good residual.
On that point, if I could just jump in, I did just a quick calculation before you started off here and broke down the percentages of what each of the MOI data is reflective of the overall students in those. And then I also looked at the overall K through 4 students. So basically, if you took the percentage of overall students, it was 16.1%.
Exactly.
There are 5 schools with student populations that are above that average threshold, and that was Jefferson by just a hair at 16.3, Silvermine at 17.5. Then you actually went to Marvin at 19.2, followed by Tracy, which you already mentioned, Dr. Akramowski, at 21.5, and followed by the highest percentage at that point in the benchmark, which is Kendall at 28.7. Now, reflective to last year when we had the K through 3, are these similar numbers? And also, was there any way to break this down to look at what percentage of those numbers are representative in the 4th grade component that was looked at this year for the first time?
We certainly can separate that out.
I'd be
I don't
curious
have
to
that
see.
on this slide, yeah.
It would be interesting to see, also to see the effectiveness from last year's K through 3, to see if that has really pushed that benchmark in a better direction,
Yeah.
and the performance of those students that we had in the program last year, and see what the reflection is overall. Because I know you mentioned it was a similar number overall, correct, Dr. Adamowski?
Yeah, so what you see here is a similar number this year for K4
Yep.
to last year at K3. So that means that there are fewer K3 students because we've added a grade, so.
And that's what I'd really be interested to see, what the breakdown of each of these classes are, in each of these schools, where is the K, the 1, 2, 3, and then especially the 4, since that's our new component that we're going to be working with this year.
Right. I think when I looked at the numbers in grade 4, for example, the most we had at one school was 25. So
Was
the
that
numbers
Kendall?
were not more than that. I believe it was Kendall, but don't quote me. I really have to look at those numbers. But when you think about the summer academy last year and the summer academy experience the year before, there were several schools in 2014-15 that remained that 100% of their students that were in the well below benchmark range in June remained in the well below benchmark range in September when they were retested. We did not have one school that had that 100%. So there was a stark difference, there really was. And that was with only 20 days of instruction, 3 hours of uninterrupted instructional time. So now we're essentially adding a whole nother week, another 4 days. So we're hoping to get even better results.
Thank you.
Janina, the kids who went last year, do you have any data kind of showing how, are any of those kids in the groups that are going to need help again? Probably, but.
Probably, yes. And in fact, we have broken it down when we look at MOI data, what percentage of students in the beginning of the year are in the well below benchmark range, and at middle of the year, how do they fare? Did they move out of that well below benchmark range? Ideally, we'd love to get 80% of those students moved out of that red zone, and so we do track that as well.
And to follow up actually on that question, if we are noticing a trend, especially from last year and as we continue into this year and then following into the next year, is there any catch-all program or an assistance to really help those kids that are falling below that benchmark? Because we want to close the achievement gap. And if we're able to catch a good number of these kids and help them perform better through this intervention, is there a plan set in motion to help those kids from then on out?
There's
Ones that
absolutely a
continually fall
plan.
below the benchmark.
You're right,
Okay.
there's absolutely a plan in place. We have implemented CK3LI in all 12 now of our elementary schools, and we are building that multi-tiered system of support, which means we are providing teachers and paraprofessionals with interventions that they can use. We're training them on how to use them, and we're creating this instructional framework where we have a very similar component like that I shared with you today, where everybody gets whole group instruction, everybody gets small group differentiated instruction, tier 1, and then some students in addition to that also get intervention. So we're really defining that as a district and everybody's getting on the same page.
And I will give you a report. When I did a tour at Brookside, Sandra Fayos did give me a little bit of a taste of what she's doing there and showed me some of those classroom environments where those types of instructions are taking place. So I'm excited to see it continuing going forward. I guess just my question specifically was in reflection to the students that are falling into the summer academy. And I assume that they're a part of this tracking metric. So if they went to the summer academy last year, they're going to the summer academy this year, and it looks like they're going to be going again next year. You know, these are the candidates that we're really getting into that enriched instruction and the intervention programs within the schools, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
A quick question. I don't know if you can answer this or not, but Jefferson and Kendall both feed into Ponus. And what happens when we do the K through 8 over there? Do you think numbers are going to change?
Yes, they will somewhat. So Kendall is our lowest income school at the current time. And you're probably aware that it became a Title I school last year because of that. It is also the lowest performing school in the city. And, you know, we have a great concern over both of those issues. It is also the largest middle school, right? So one of the objectives of the building plan is to bring the enrollment down, but to also integrate the school socioeconomically to a greater degree. This is why one of the reasons supporting a K-8 STEM magnet, because in addition to first preference from the Jefferson students, the current science magnet, that lower school will be open to citywide enrollment, so at least part of it, and they will then feed into the 6-8. And so that should impact Ponus positively, both in size, in income, and hopefully the STEM program in terms of achievement. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up our special education administrators so that they can talk to you about the ESY program. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we move into the ESY component, Eric, you brought a great point up of how we're attempting to close the achievement gap. A critical research point that came out of Harvard specifically states that to mitigate summer regression, summer learning loss, students have to read 5 books between 50 and 100 points between their lexile. So one of the core objectives to be able to close the achievement gap is to tackle the issue that or the quandary that we're dealing with summer learning or summer regression. So that's a very critical point. That's one of the main innovations for the Mayan Digital Library, because it's interest-based, 50 to 100 points between their lexile, and students will be engaged to read. So they can pick it up on their smartphone, pick it up on their computer or their electronic device at home. So we're hoping to be able to mitigate that between the end of the year and the beginning of the year regression.
And that Mayan was the Netflix like.
The Netflix on, you're right.
Break it down into simple terms.
Right.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Joe Russo from the Specialized Learning and Student Support Department. We have some exciting changes happening in ESY this summer, and what I'd like to do is go over 4 bullet points with you. All points are related, so they're interconnected. The first point, if you look in the handout, is that this summer's ESY program is decentralized, and it also addresses the issue of LRE. In past years, the ESY program was housed, or all the students for the most part were clustered at Norwalk High School, and they were segregated into one part of the building. This summer, what we're going to do is that students will be spending their time in their home elementary school as much as possible, and they will be in the least restrictive environment. They will have natural opportunities, bullet number 3, for engagement between general and special education students. There'll be built-in times for them to interact. It's a perfect and very natural learning environment for students. And I think consequently, because they will be in their home schools, there'll be smaller class sizes. So we're looking for students to be able to address their IEP needs through specialized instruction in a smaller environment, addressing not only the academic learning needs to prevent any regression, but social emotional needs, which are equally important for students. And we're hoping that we can do that and gather data and use that data to improve the program for the following summer. There are approximately, we're still gathering numbers, but in pre-K through 5, there are about 227 students. There are approximately 227 students currently registered for the program, and in grades 6 through 12, there are 70. So my colleagues who want to come up next will provide further details on the 4 components of the program, but we've talked about it, a lot of discussion, and it made much more sense for youngsters to go into their home schools, interacting with colleagues and peers. Thank you.
Well, Stacy's coming up. This is one of the points of input that we've had from the parents of ESY students. Important to point out that 1,700 students are served in special education by our district. That's about 15% of the school district. And there is a small subset of that group that qualify for ESY. ESY is something that would go into a child's IEP if there is a high likelihood that the student would experience regression without an ESY experience, extended year experience. But it does not affect all students. It's approximately 300 of the 1,700. And, I think one of the points the parents pointed out is that, these are students who, for the most part, are the most vulnerable in terms of change and different environments and different people. And to have them go back to their own school, work in an environment that they're familiar with, perhaps with adults that they have worked with before, not only creates a much better environment for them, but provides a least restrictive environment.
Yes, the number here is Mr. Russo said it was 227 and it's 248 on the sheet. Does that mean that it went down 21?
No, it actually is 248.
Right.
So as numbers come in, we were updating.
Got it, that's why.
Yes.
Thank
These are hot off the presses. This morning we ran the data.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I may have missed something. What are these numbers reflecting is in comparison to the ones that we just looked at the other?
Well, we've never had ESY integrated with summer learning before. It's been a standalone program. It's been in its own location.
Okay.
It has been a subject of criticism from parents, as you know, from last summer.
Yes.
And so, in the absence of a chief, I asked a number of parents to come together and provide us with advice and feedback as to how we could do this better. And they have contributed to this significant, what you're going to see explained tonight, they've contributed to significantly.
And just so I'm understanding, these numbers are in addition to the students that were targeted in the other slide that we had before?
Yes.
Yes, so these are a whole separate subgroup, but they would be at the schools with potential integration.
Right.
Okay, perfect.
So these students are students that qualify for extended school year. Some may come, some may not. Extended school year is a voluntary, we recommend it as part of the PPT team.
Yes.
But these are the students that are qualified for that extended service. So as we looked at the program last year, and as Dr. Adamowski said, we met with several parents and talked about what worked, what didn't work, what we could do better, and we've been working in alignment with NSA to really provide an integrated program. One of the biggest changes, as Mr. Russo said, is that our services are being provided at the home school or within the feeder pattern. If you're 5th moving into 6th or 8th moving into 9th, you would move with that school. There will be some consolidation. For example, if we had only one student who attended a school, we would move them to a school where there would be other children for them to be with. But the goal really is, instead of having everybody at one site, that it's more individualized, therefore providing a smaller class size. And as we talked about earlier, it's the least restrictive environment. This is closest to what they have during the school year. So for a lot of students, they would be at a school during the school year, and then they pick up and they're someplace else during the summer. So they're in a different classroom with different teacher, with different students. And so now we're looking at being able to be in the classroom with their materials, with the equipment that they use during the school year. So much more appropriate for them. because of the smaller class size and because it'll be at their school, we can individualize their program a lot better. Previously, when we were all at Norwalk High School, we tried to individualize as best we could, but we're at a high school. Now when we look at elementary or you're at middle school, you're where all of your things are. So, the materials, the curriculum, access to all of that. So being able to individualize that better. We're also providing professional development for the enrichment providers. So as we talk about later, the integration opportunities we have, we're providing professional development for those providers so they know it's not just having an adult out on the playground watching students, it's being able to facilitate those skills, and they need professional development in order to do that. And also one of the feedback that the parents gave us was that to have a parent-student orientation prior to the first day of ESY so that they could bring their child and meet the teacher, get to know what the schedule is, just kind of go, who's my teacher? Because it may not be who they have during the regular school year. So to provide that opportunity. So with that, we have, we've put in place deadlines to be able to put all of this in place so that we can let everybody know ahead of time. One of the areas that we needed to grow from last year is being able to notify parents sooner of different information. So as of April 1st, all students' eligibility has been determined of whether or not they're eligible for ESY services. We have letters that will be that will go out by the end of the week, both English and Spanish, to parents saying, are you going to be attending ESY? And if you receive door-to-door transportation during the school year, do you need that service as well? So those will go out both through a mailing to parents and through backpacks so that we can make sure that both ways somebody's going to get a letter. And the expectation is to have that due back by May 10th. So that then we can start compiling classes. Applications went out to school staff today, asking them if they're interested in working ESY. So the deadline is April 21st, and we can notify them by April 28th. So by having staff notified by April 28th, the parents having let us know if they're coming by May 10th, by June 1st, we will be able to notify parents of the location of ESY for their child in case it may not be at their home school. The teacher, transportation, will have all of that in place. And then we would be able to have the open house on June 23rd, which is the Friday before ESY starts, and ESY would then start June 26th.
Stacy, really quick question. Going back to when you mentioned about if there aren't enough students to be served at one homeschool, I totally understand that. The one that jumps out at me, though, is Fox Run with 46 students. So in a situation like that, would there be more staff put to the attention on that specific school?
Yes, so Fox Run is unique in that they have the IPP program, the Institute of Professional Practice, and so they actually run a K-3 inclusion cohort. So they will be running their program. So there's approximately 20-ish students that are in that program. So of the 40-some students, half of that belong to IPP. And so they provide their own staff, and then we would provide the additional staff for the other students who aren't part of that program.
Okay, so that IPP is its own separate program that would be already taking place at the school over the summer, as it is. Perfect, thank you.
I have a couple.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Well,
Yes.
What's the number of special educators that you had last summer, or an estimate of how many you had last summer?
We had 13 teachers last summer, 2 social workers, and 3 speech and language pathologists. We had a shortage of speech and language pathologists last year, so I've already, even though the applications just went out today, about a month ago, I was asking, okay, everybody who wants to work so that we can have them. So we have 6 speech and language pathologists this year. We'll be hiring additional social workers and psychologists as well to help with the integration aspect of the enrichment between the NSA and the ESY to help facilitate the social skills development. So we're looking at a few more staff than last year, but in my opinion, we were a little short-staffed last year, so I think we're where we would have been last year had we been able to hire, if we had more staff that was available to work.
So if you hire more staff this year, in terms of support staff, social workers, school psychologists, et cetera, and special educators, with the decentralization of the program, would they still be able to cover the individual caseloads beyond the social skills aspect program?
Yes. So the teachers will be more site-based, whereas the related service providers will be itinerant, so they will go to where the students are. So you might have a school that might only have maybe 2 or 3 students that receive speech and language. So the speech therapist would go there, but you might have another school that would have 2 days worth. And so we'll be placing them to be able to maximize so that they can make sure they go to all the different schools. And then they would stay later in the afternoon to provide that additional support for the enrichment program.
Will there be a strain on the district in terms of not having sufficient materials, being able to provide the supports that the students need because it's going to be decentralized?
No, in fact, it will actually be the opposite. We'll have more access to the materials because the students are going to be at their home schools where the materials that they're working on during the school year are available. So the teachers have access to all of their materials that they would be using during the school year as well. And that's been one of the difficulties when everybody packs up their boxes and takes them someplace else. Here they have access to all of their materials instead of just partial.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? No? Okay, please proceed.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Maureen Sullivan. I'm one of the special education administrators, and I'm just going to talk briefly about the integration piece. This is actually a piece that I am very excited about. In my career, before I was a special education administrator, I was a school psychologist. And working as a school psychologist, I did a lot of work on social skills with students. And probably the most challenging part about learning social skills is the generalization. And the program that we have developed, this recreational period that's going to include both special education and regular education students, is going to give us an opportunity to help students foster those skills and reinforce what they're taught in social skills training. Now, this period is not only for special education students. As we know, social skills is a life skill. All students could benefit from kind of learning good social skills because they need these social skills obviously when they're in the classroom, they're working in cooperative groups, they want to make friends, and beyond school, of course, when you're out in the working world, it's good to have good social skills. So I'm really excited about this piece that we're going to be able to have certified staff, paraprofessionals, speech and language pathologists, social workers, school psychologists, helping to facilitate some of these activities. And some of the activities we're really going to be focusing on is cooperation activities, turn taking, some problem solving in there as well, social reciprocity, and also team building. So the activities that we want to include really will focus on those skills and kind of help all students. So it's not just the special education students, it'll also be the regular education students as well in the academy. So it's going to allow for kind of a natural place for the reinforcement of those skills. Teachers are going to be using kind of incidental teaching, kind of teaching in the moment in the activities, which research has shown is very powerful for social skills improvement. So again, I touched on that piece. We're going to have certified staff. Paraprofessionals are also going to be facilitating in that as well. But the other piece that I want to talk about briefly is the professional development piece, because we're not going to just kind of say, okay, teachers, kind of figure it out. So we're going to give them some professional development, the certified staff and the paraprofessionals, on how they can kind of facilitate these activities and foster the social skills. So it's going to be really great for all of the students, I think, and I'm very, very excited about this piece that we're including for all students.
Any questions?
If I could just add in, I think it's great, the social skills, because it doesn't just involve students in class, it's outside of class.
Right.
It's a graduate and everyday life skills, I think. So I think this is great. I also like the PD, not only for the certified staff, but also for the paraprofessionals, because they're going to be working closely with these students.
Right, right. It'll be really helpful for them to help facilitate. It's going to be great. I'm really, really excited about it.
Great, thank you.
So we just wanted to kind of provide a sample schedule so you can kind of see how all of this integrates together. So staff will report 30 minutes before the start of the ESY. We are working on the same tiered schedule as the NSA. So students who require door-to-door transportation will have the door-to-door transportation. Those who won't are able to take the NSA school bus as well, or parents can bring them, they can walk. They'll have breakfast when they come to school. They'll do an opening activity. They'll work on their instruction and services per their IEP. So whatever the IEP really dictates, whether it's reading, math, specific social skills, strategy, learning, they would do that with the closing up. And then that's when the enhancement, the enrichment with the typical peers would happen. So we would have a 40-minute block and then a 20-minute lunch. I believe one is the enrichment and then lunch, and the other is lunch, then the enrichment. But it's basically an hour. That's where the staff will be out there to be able to facilitate the social skills, work on the incidental learning, and really reinforce what we've been working on during the course of the ESY day. And then students will be dismissed. You'll be hearing about the extended day program that in the afternoon, and ESY students are able to participate in that just like any of the other NSA students. So if the parents choose, they can continue their day on with that.
Can I ask a question? I kind of jumped ahead as I was reading this. I know you're going to get involved in the extended day program. Do we have an idea of cost? I know there's a sliding scale, what that would be.
I don't have that information. I think they might when they come up.
I was hoping.
I'm jumping.
I was waiting on
okay.
that one, Heidi. I jumped ahead too.
I think it's great. So it looks as if there was a survey done and parents they were looking for an extended day. So I think that's needed. Okay.
One thing I do just want to make a quick comment. You know, what I appreciate a lot about the presentation today is both from your end and your counterparts that did the first part. This shows that there was feedback received, and we've taken that into account, and we're trying to do the best that we can. And again, it might not be perfect this year. I doubt it will be, but you know, it's this striving to continue to get better and seeing the new innovations here and trying to really get them from the homeschool base, I think is a very exciting component. You know, I did appreciate Dr. Crevecoeur's questions about how that would work, and I'm going to be very fascinated to watch it all work out and really take that element of having the kids be in their home school as best as they possibly can be, and you know, making sure that we can still facilitate those services that are needed while continuing to develop this robust educational program. It's fascinating, exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing it progress. So
I'm looking forward to it. I think that this is a huge step in the right direction.
If I could just add one other thing.
Yeah, sure.
I think it would be great also when this is all said and done, I think the homeschooling, not homeschooling, I'm sorry, actually having it in their homeschool so they're familiar and it's like comfort level for our students. But having a survey, kind of an exit survey when this is all said and done and how well it worked out, what we might have to tweak the following year, what's worked, what hasn't worked. But I think the schedule and looking through this is very comprehensive. And I think we've listened to our parents. You know, we've gone out there and you've done the work and what they're looking for.
Absolutely, and we did a survey last year, and one of the things Dr. Adamowski and myself and the parents we were working with was we reviewed that survey and, you know, took that feedback of how we could make it better. And even just prior to this, we were talking with the parents about what we can add to this year's survey to evaluate the progress of this program and what we might need to do for going forward for that. So yes, thank you.
And Heidi, you're absolutely correct. At our December meeting, we actually took the feedback data from our parents and really unwrapped it. And this is how this new innovation around the extended day came up, because our parents were satisfied with the K-3 component. It was just a disruption during the middle of the day, picking up the kids. A lot of our parents were actually picking up their children at lunch, using their lunch hour to pick them up to go back home. So we listened to our parents, and we wanted to provide an extended day for them that incorporates the typical peers from the NSA, as well as our students from ESY.
Good evening. I'm Tricia Masuko. I'm the Extended Learning Coordinator for the district. The reason why I'm here to talk to you about the NSA ESY Extended Day. Why are we offering an extended day? We know that 87% of our parents reported that they thought our summer academy last summer was a success. But they also stated that there was some difficulty in the timing of dismissal and being able to greet their students at the bus. So parents have also requested this extended day, and we also need to ensure that we're implementing our strategic operating plan around goals 2 for the expansion of summer learning and goals 5 for health and wellness. One area I'd want to look at is when the team began to meet, we wanted to look at what assets we had in the district. What programs could we build on? And one of those areas was our Norwalk Public Schools athletic camps. So what is enrichment? The goal of the NSA enrichment is to improve and enhance the summer experience for the Norwalk students. What type of activities would our students be participating in? Team building, board games, art, gym games. These are just to name a few, like several camps and recreations used across the country. Is there a fee to participate? So I'll go into a little bit more depth here. There is a sliding fee scale based on free and reduced lunch. So the weekly cost for a free lunch student would be $40, and it works out to be about $3.33 an hour, if that's as specific as I can get. For a full paying student, it would be $100 per week. So these are, and then in between is $60 per week for reduced lunch students. Our goal is to make it as affordable as possible. We want to give parents the option to pay weekly because we understand that there are different circumstances in every family. I've also reached out to Connecticut Care for Kids, and we'll be able to accept that as well this summer. And I'll still be looking for additional scholarship opportunities for students to participate because, yes.
Quick question. Can a student 1 week have an extended program and then the following week not, and then the following week after that?
They could.
Weekly?
We
Okay.
wanted to give parents, what is going to meet parents' needs? You know, as a parent in the district myself, that's the same thing. What is going to meet my needs? And that's what we want. We want to meet the needs of families in our district. So that is something very important to us. What does the NSA Extended Day look like? So students enrolled will have the option to attend one of these 3 NSA extended enrichment sites. Existing already was Rowayton, and Wolf Pit. We added Kendall. When we took a look at the geographical map of where all our schools were, it's kind of a triangle so that we're capturing each area of Norwalk. Joe Matafari, who is my partner here, would like to discuss what the day would look like.
Good evening, I'm Joe Mataferi. I'm the athletic director at Brian McMahon High School, and also I'm the director of the summer camps, which have been around for a long time. If you look at the schedule there, the arrival at 1:30 to 2 o'clock, arrive, check-in, extended by site, depends on early or late, and the times will change based on that. Also, if you go down, the 1:45 to 2:30, block 1, with activities referring to what Trish just went over, games, team building, there's art built into that. There's board games built into that. There's carom contests built into that also. You would have that in block 1. We would then break in 15-minute break from 2:30 to 2:45, 2:45 to 3:30, block 2, and so on to the end, which would be 4:30 to 5 o'clock, reflection of the day and dismissal. These camps are similar to our gym games we've had for years at Rowayton, Wolf Pit, and also Merrimack. We've had them up there for 2 weeks too. So they're very similar. They're mainly for the kids that have their gym activities in the summertime. We do take in consideration the heat. It's pretty hot in the summertime, so if we need more breaks, we're gonna have more breaks. And it's extremely reasonable for the kids to attend. Go back to your question, they can sign up for 1 week, they can sign up for the last week, actually 4 days, whatever it may
So
be.
it's all optional.
Yeah, there's options there. Right now, there's gym games at Rowayton and Wolf Pit. They're till 3, so we'll just extend it till 5.
Are they structured gym games?
They could be.
Okay.
They could be. Even more so now with this group that's coming in. Any other questions?
Yeah, I actually have a few. Just give me 1 second while I go back here.
Eric, while you're looking for that, I should mention that when Stacy and I talked with some of the parents of children with special needs this evening, they thought, number one, the fees were very reasonable. And secondly, this particular camp experience will go later in the afternoon than both the recreation department camp and the PF camp. And this addresses the needs of working parents as well. So I think everybody's really excited about this. Just hoping, this will be our first experience with it, but it certainly provides a service to parents that we have not had before.
I mean, going at 5 o'clock, that's going to give the parents an opportunity to get home, get things going, and it'll work out quite well.
Okay, just going back to the fees, I heard the $40 a week and the $100 a week. Did they also hear 60?
60 is for the reduced version.
As
Okay,
opposed
so
to free.
40 is free, 60 reduced, 100 just regular, whatever.
Correct.
Okay, that answers one. The other one, is there any transportation at dismissal?
Yes, I apologize. So the students enrolled will have an option, so if they're enrolled, they will have transportation to their designated NSA site.
Okay, so we'll be bringing them back to their NSA site?
No, NSA enrichment site, I apologize. So as an example, at Kendall, we're trying to do it geographically. So at Kendall, we're looking at having Fox Run, Jefferson, and Silver Mine participate at the Kendall site. Another example, at Wolf Pit, we'll have obviously Cranberry, Marvin, Narragansett, Tracy. So these are just, I'm trying to do it geographically.
And the dismissal part is on the onus of the parents to pick up?
No, at 5 o'clock, yes.
Okay, that was my understanding.
Yes,
That's what I wanted to
so the
So-
letter, I have a letter generated to go out to families that really does go into extreme depth on what that procedure is.
So at the end of summer school, at 1 p.m., the parent has an option, right? They don't want to participate in camp, the child will be dropped off at home. They want to participate in camp, the child will be dropped off at one of the 3 campsites. And then they pick the child up from camp.
That was that last component I didn't understand. Thank you. Okay, so next kind of thing that popped up in my head. With the types of activities that are proposed, I think that they sound great. My only concern is if there are children with restrictions who maybe want to participate in a summer activity who might have mobility issues. I'm just trying to understand, this is all taking place outside, I guess is my first clarifying question?
At each of the schools. I think we will adapt based on the students' needs.
Okay, and now what happens during inclement weather?
Inside, classrooms,
Okay, so it would be
cafeteria.
moved inside? And what is the staffing looking like on this? How many people will be, at each site?
It depends on how many numbers sign up. I mean, if you have 50, 75, we're going to have to add more instructors. There's staff, professional staff, they're teachers, mainly PE teachers. Also, we tie into the mayor's opportunity for work in the summertime. Last year I had 20. I'm looking to get 25 students there. And we do have kids we do hire from both Norwalk and McMahon to work at the other camps that are around town.
So it's safe to say that this is definitely more of a physical education based?
Recreation, phys ed. But to fit the needs of the students, that's what we're looking to do.
Are parents being given examples of what some of these activities might look like?
Yes.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Disseminate the information. We want to present it to the board today.
Okay.
And then start disseminating information tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know a little bit more about that, just out of curiosity. And then, again, jumping back to the costs, I know you mentioned, Trish, that there was going to be some scholarships put in place. What is that program looking like so far, and what is your outreach in the state?
So at this point, I'm reaching out to community groups to see if there is the ability to offer some scholarships. There are many community partners out there that would possibly be willing to do that. At the same time, it is my belief that, and honestly, we would not turn one child away due to a cost factor.
And this is a 6-week program, correct?
It is a 6-week program.
So then it would be $240 for free lunch, $360 for reduced, and $600 for regular?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I think what's important to see here is to look at really the whole day. When we look at our schedule, we're looking at academics in the morning, we're looking at our enrichment, NSA, ESY enrichment, we're looking at our lunch, we're looking at this extended day piece all the way to 5 o'clock. So we're meeting the needs of our students, both academically, socially, and then we're also meeting the needs of parents that need to work. So I feel that it's a very comprehensive day, and it really meets the needs of families.
Anything else?
Any other
Shirley?
questions?
You have a question?
What would be nice is maybe, in the future, we can look at, getting some type of grant or partnering with someone that can help out with the transportation, because some parents probably don't have, the means of the transportation home is the bus. And so, with that, they might decide not to participate in the, enrichment program because of trying to get them home at the end of the program. But that's something we can probably look at.
When we started the gym games years ago, the numbers were very low, extremely low, 20, 30, 40. Rowayton's like 60, 70. Wolf Pit went from 20 to like 50, 45. The growth is there. If you provide a service for these families and kids, the kids are going to come, because that'll be the best bet in town.
Yeah, I'm just, looking out for the ones.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to make sure
Yeah.
everyone can be part
They all
of
should have an
this.
opportunity to
Yeah,
participate and
that's
enjoy it.
where I'm at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, Sherelle?
This probably should be obvious, but can you break down the geographical, the schools that will be attending each
Yes.
site?
So at Kendall, we'll obviously have the Kendall students, Fox Run, Jefferson, and Silvermine. At Rowayton, we're looking at right now Brookside and Columbus. Now, these are all subject to change, and we also have to look at the numbers of students that enroll. And then at Wolf Pit Cranberry, we're looking at Wolf Pit Cranberry, Marvin, Narragansett, and Tracy. And that's
That's
a
the one I
site that I may actually make an adjustment to, but I was looking at it geographically. for
No, I
parents.
understand. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Michael, you're going to wrap up?
Yeah, that's the totality of our presentation. Just want to thank you for listening to us.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mike.
I want to thank all the many people who worked on this. This was a great effort. As you know, this responds directly to one of the objectives in our strategic operating plan for this year. It puts us on a trajectory to expand a grade a year until we get through the 8th grade. And that's the plan for the next 5 years. And in doing that, we can handle the finances of this. But it's a comprehensive program, and I'm very excited about the fact that we would be integrating the ESY and providing our special needs students with their summer learning experience in a much less restrictive environment that we have in the past. So again, a good job to everybody who has been working so hard on this.
It's really nice that they will be in their schools where that's phenomenal.
Yeah, this is a major change, and congratulations also on, the interaction with the parents and, really addressing their concerns.
The parents have been extremely helpful, and we're very, very grateful for their input. I don't think it would have turned out quite this way without the things that they pointed out to us. So, all right, so our second important topic tonight deals...
There's one subsection, though, just-in-time summer graduation for Briggs.
Yes, we're gonna come back to you on that with information, but I can tell you the basic concept. In the past, the district has run a paid credit recovery summer school, and students who needed one course or less, part of a course or one course, could pay to take this at Norwalk High School or Brian McMahon High School. And there's two problems with that. The majority of students that don't graduate are 1 to 2 credits from graduation. Secondly, the students who need to do this the most are our lowest income students who cannot afford to pay. And so they would not go. And we lose those students. And what a shame to have a student not graduate and just leave school when they only have 2 credits to graduate. And so utilizing the resources of Briggs Pathway Academy, where we have 4 fully equipped blended learning classrooms, we are going to run a 1 to 2 credit summer school there this summer for 6 weeks, the same amount of time, 4 days a week, 6 weeks, to correspond to the other summer programs. And students will be, who can graduate by doing that, can take that for free at district expense. And we'll have Mr. Sullivan give you a little more information about that in the future. And we will have, as we get a little later in the year, we'll have better information on what students need and the number of students and what they need to graduate and so on. But that's the other part of this.
Okay, thank you. All right, next is food service report and recommendations. Mr. Hamilton.
Okay, good evening. As the superintendent indicated, the board's strategic operating plan did identify addressing deficiencies that had been identified or concerns that have been raised about food services and the food service operation as an important area for district improvement in the strategic operating plan under Goal 5. There were 11 strategies, implementation strategies that were attached to Goal 5, and one of them was to improve nutritional quality of school lunches and the dining environment. So the report tonight is in furtherance of this particular implementation strategy. And earlier this year, we did solicit proposals from consultants to begin to undertake a study and review of our food service operation. We selected John Tureen, who is the president and founder of Sustainable Food Systems, as the consultant on this engagement. John's a nationally recognized leader and innovator in sustainable food practices. He has worked for a number of well-known clients, including the Culinary Institute of America, Yale University, Harvard Medical School, the East Harlem School, Jamie Oliver Limited, and Cabell County, West Virginia Public Schools, St. Luke's Wood River Medical Center, as well as numerous other hospitals and public school systems. So I'm going to call up John to walk through his presentation, and then obviously he and I would be available to answer any questions and to talk about implementation next steps.
Well, thank you all for giving me this opportunity, and I especially want to thank the food service team and the administrative and community stakeholders that spent so much time providing feedback, information, details throughout the process, as Tom mentioned, over the last couple of months, really looking through this. The purpose for tonight is for me to give you an overview of a report that was submitted, hopefully, was submitted to you, and also I think hard copies are out here. I don't intend to take up a tremendous amount of time diving deep into it, but I do want to try to touch on all of it, but then give you an opportunity, or give everybody an opportunity for questions and answers. So I'm pretty much going to briefly talk about the methodology on how I looked at this, but then more importantly, I'm going to talk about observations and subsequently recommendations. So methodology, I use this analogy of a wheel with spokes, because any of us that have ridden a bicycle know that if any of the spokes aren't engaged or aren't working, the wheel doesn't roll. So if the food service program that you all envision and want to see successful represents a wheel, we have to look at it in 5 different areas. One of the spokes is the food, the quality of the food, where does it come from, the makeup, all the issues that everyone, it's first and foremost on everybody's list, right? And understandably so, it's on mine. Unfortunately, no wheel's going to roll with one spoke, so we can't make recommendations to a food program just based on food. We have to also consider and look at the infrastructure. I call it facilities. What are we working with as far as kitchens, equipment, setups, serveries, things like that. So that's a second spoke on the wheel. Still not close to being able to roll a wheel, though. The next spoke on the wheel is the community. That's you all. That's the kids, the students. It's the food service staff and it's food service managers. It's people. Everyone has to be engaged. And in this case, in this district, I quickly realized it was probably one of the most important areas. So you'll see when I walk through this or in the report, I broke the community spoke actually into a couple. One has to do with food service team, the other with administration and external stakeholders. When I say external, I'm talking, you've got some great ones. Norwalk Grows, the Wellness Committee, all the people that are outside in the city that are engaged in this or want to be engaged in this. The fourth spoke on the wheel is communication. That has to do with training, marketing, selling, getting the message across to your customers. Why are we doing this? How are we going to go about doing this? And it also, and what I quickly found, and you'll hear about in this district, was it was an area not unlike a lot of relationships where there was a miscommunication between stakeholder groups. You'll see, I'll talk about that. The last spoke on the wheel is that whatever we do with the other 4 spokes, we can't be ignorant of the responsibilities we have for fiscal responsibility, revenue enhancing. So as I was charged with the initial, when I met with the key stakeholders here to kind of get this off and running, the directive that I was given kind of fell into 3 areas. One is to immerse myself into the food service program. It's my background. It's what I did for more years than I care to even admit sometimes. It's as a food service operator and a chef, so I need to understand what it is they're doing and how they're doing it. The second directive I got from you all was to begin with the end in mind and don't think conventionally. Don't just settle for, okay, this will get you by, or this is just good enough. Think outside the box. Think big. So you all gave me that directive. And then the last one was to make recommendations that are going to carry this, or carry your program and your food service at Norwalk schools into one that you're proud of, and that the kids and the students and the parents and food service workers, everyone's going to really say it's successful in your minds. So with that said, oh, hang on a sec. Sorry about that. I think we're back online here.
Yeah. Looks like it's still on.
As soon as I hit the next button.
That's what happens when Ralph isn't here.
He's shrinking it. It looks like the PowerPoint is still on at the bottom.
I'll use the arrows. I'll use the down arrow.
Hit down arrow instead of right arrow. Which I hate when that happens.
Let's, ready? I want to hit it. 1, 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry about that. So the observations and recommendations, I'm going to walk through each of these based on the 5 spokes. If you have questions or comments, I'm easy. Throw them out there as we go through it, or wait until the end, whatever, whatever works for you. And again, this is kind of like the 30,000-foot view of what you see in your report. And in particular, the last 5 pages are the recommendations. That column, or that particular section is broken into what I observed, what I recommend the action be, what resources you could use as you attempt to undertake that recommendation, and a projected timeline. There's a lot of variables you might want to consider as you go through each of those columns that might factor into it as far as other projects you're working on, budgets, et cetera. So take that into consideration, but this was my best recommendation. So under food and products, first thing I want to just talk about, and these are in no particular order. I want to ensure that this is not priority to highest to least priority, but salad bars. There are some salad bars in some of the schools, but the elementary schools, kids today can eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, and it's been studied that by putting salad bars and getting them to see that when they first walk in has increased the consumption considerably. So what you should do is phase in some salad bars in the elementary schools. The middle schools have them, upgrade the quality of what's on those salad bars, and there's resources online that you can tap into, for instance, the Chef Ann's Lunchbox, and there's a whole bunch of templates, order guides, production records. You don't have to start from scratch. The salad bars can be a low-hanging fruit. There's grants available for purchasing salad bars. We're not talking about taking up a lot of space. They can be put on right on tabletops. There might be some infrastructural challenges, but you guys got a food service management company and some competent managers that can be involved with helping to design this, to put in the salad bars. Local food, it's part of my passion, and it's a big part of public schools food today. It's the national farm to school program has been blowing up, growing every single year. It's promoted. It's very easy for a district or a food service program to say they're doing it. It's very difficult to actually do it. I think you're dealing with that here, where you've got it's marketed in some of the materials and the menus, but it's not being followed through as much as it could be. One of the simplest things you can do every year, and I checked in with Whitson's, who is your food service management company, with their purchasing people. Every year, write specifications that identify your priorities for where that food comes from. Connecticut grown should be first and foremost. There are stipulations you'll need to work through, availability, pricing, but there are districts, like New Haven started this a few years back, where your annual specifications for purchasing can be written in for that. And there's a lot of Connecticut resources that can help with the farm to school program. They're listed in here as well. Scratch cooking, same thing as the local food initiative. It's easy to say, it's much more difficult to undertake. And there's not much scratch cooking going on here. Not because you're way behind what the norm is out there in the nation. Unfortunately, what you see and what you feel is probably common. Well, not probably, it is common out there in the public school world, but you're asking for something different, and you want to go different. And there are a lot of cutting-edge districts that are beginning to find ways to cook more scratch cooking, which I advocate and have put in many a district. There's a couple of ways you're going to see that I recommend going about thinking about this. Your elementary schools are not equipped to cook from scratch, but you have the possibility to either look at where you can cook in one area and deliver to others, or cook in several areas and deliver to others. One would be utilizing your central kitchen again and shipping prepared food. Another might be looking into the middle schools, which are better equipped, and I will touch on when I get to facilities, there's some need there, but they're better equipped where maybe they produce the food and send out to their feeder schools, so that it's not all coming from one central kitchen. So that's an area to look at for scratch cooking. Ethnic meals. I think the way I understand it, you have over 40% Hispanic population here. And there are, in some of the high school, in the high schools, there might be some stations that focus on quote-unquote Tex-Mex. I'm not talking about putting in nacho bars or things like that. I think as far as ethnic meals can go, simple, healthy, again, scratch cooked or organized to be assembled right there in front of a student. Put it on right on the regular menu. And if you've got clientele and customers that come from this particular, these type of diets, get their input. One of the recommendations coming up is going to be a lead team, which should give you the resources to get that particular input. So that's a big snapshot of the food spoke on the wheel. You guys get you've got some good things happening, and please don't, and I've addressed some of these in the report. There are, some of the middle schools, there's some stations that have been put together where the team is assembling some pretty decent menus, but there's a lot of opportunity here. Make it district-wide. Second spoke on the wheel is the facility or the infrastructure. At Brian McMahon High School, everybody that I talked to in every capacity kept saying the same thing I did when I first walked in. Why is there a whole food station sitting? There's a station, let me rephrase that. When I say whole food, I don't mean in the sense of the grocery store. There's a station unused at the end of that particular food court. So put it to use. Make it grab and go. There's so many people talking about not having enough time. Make it your ethnic station at that particular school. Put in a smoothie station. I'm going to recommend, you'll see for breakfast in the high schools, grab and go smoothie stations. Use it. Use that station. Another area that I noticed, and I did get feedback from some of the stakeholders, and it's a bit of a challenge, and this is going out there, but you guys are asking for it, is get rid of the disposable serviceware. You're serving food on styrofoam or not, if it's not styrofoam, with plastic and paper plates. Everything, food quality often comes down to perception. And if you can get away from disposable, not to also mention that you're sending a message to students about waste in disposing. So phase in, look into this, but phase into washable wares and dishwashers. There's going to be a need for some training as you put this in, and I'm not just referring to training of staff on how to handle this, but how to handle washable serviceware. But the students are going to need to know what to do as well. Instead of everything going in the trash, you're going to need to make sure you educate them to not throw out their silverware. And there's some tools that you can invest in that kind of have like trash barrels that have lids with magnets. So if somebody throws a fork in there, it should catch on the magnet. That's mentioned in the recommendation as well. But start to look into getting away from that unsavory vessel that you're putting, especially if you're increasing the quality of the food. Look at what you're serving it on. Production equipment. So I mentioned we want to start serving and preparing more scratch cooking, and you're in a school that's got to serve 300, 400, 500, 800 meals. we're not talking about having to grab a knife and start dicing raw vegetables. There are ways about speeding up food production, and a lot of that has to do with the equipment for prep. So you're gonna have to look into investing in food processing equipment. Some of your, especially in your middle schools, if you're looking at increased production, check your ovens, your stoves, look at, you're gonna have to do a study, look at the menu and understand what you need to walk through that menu, from storage to preparation to cooking to service, and get the equipment you need. And distribute accordingly as well. So now, the community spoke, which I divided into two, is talking about the staff and the food service staff. Under leadership, you've got a really interesting, a very interesting, unique dynamic here where you have 4 managers from 2 different entities overseeing food service. So you have 2 managers that work for Whitson's, 2 managers, or a manager and a lead office secretary person does manager's work in running this. And they all click. Everyone gets together. They have a great work dynamic. I saw no problems with that. Where there was challenges is, first of all, from the food service management company, they're only overseeing 2 of the 4 managers. There's really no, other than administration, who doesn't have a lot of day-to-day food service experience or time overseeing the others. The staff itself, the hourly staff, there's a unique dynamic of, or understanding to this point, where the district staff are only counseled and managed and supervised or disciplined, if the need be, by the Norwalk managers. No need for that. No need for that dynamic when it comes to supervising, and I'll explain that. Another piece to this as well when it comes down to leadership, and this is where it gets down into in personal but not personal, is looking at the dynamics and the qualities and the competencies of the managers, as well as their work responsibilities, which I tried to do the best I could while I was here. The food service director, I'm going to recommend that you ask Whitson's to make a change, not because she's not trying hard, but there's a lack of experience for a district this size. You have a very, very large district, and you really need the skill sets of someone who has been through working this kind of the dynamics of this size district, as well as been able to lead and generate a lot of the other recommendations and the observations that I'm seeing. So a lot of these things, with the right leader, the right resident district manager or food service director, can take the proverbial bull by the horns and drive this ship. Needs to be the captain of this ship. So that's one of the recommendations. The other recommendation that I'm making is that there's not really a need for the director of distribution position. I think a lot of that position's responsibilities are redundant or can be redundant, and they can be distributed within the other managers. So I don't think you need that position in this district. And the recommendation coming out of that as well is that you utilize that type of by not having that, you should invest in it and carry a district chef, a district executive chef. Some districts are just at the cutting edge now of having chefs as part of their management team. And there's no reason why you shouldn't as well. I mean, if we're talking about scratch cooking and local food and the quality of food, why shouldn't someone with a significant culinary background, especially or preferably in volume, be overseeing that part of it and supporting the training of all your team throughout these. So hire a district chef is a strong recommendation from that perspective. The management of the hourly staff, I just mentioned that, is to make sure everybody understands all supervisors should be able to manage. And again, nobody had a problem with wanting to do this. It seemed to be one of those things that's always been done. It's just the way we always did. I did talk to Human Resources. They said there's no reason why contractually or any other understanding that they could think of that the food service management company could not, anybody could, as a management role, should be able to manage. Personally, I've been there. When I've worked for a large contract company, we had to manage union workforce that were employees of the institution I worked at. It was our responsibility to do that, to manage that. So I think everybody can and will do that. Community, under the staff, just continue this. One of the big challenges I heard from the supervisors and the managers is dealing with absenteeism and the amount of time that takes for them to fill or to attempt to fill open slots. And there are times when they cannot fill these open positions and have to either go with not having anybody do that job, which could affect productivity and service, or the managers themselves are actually going in and doing the work, working the registers, or serving or something, just because they can't fill that. So again, Human Resources, when I talked to them, they said that we could try to work on building a temp pool or solicit employees better, but Human Resources said let's step up and help that, because it's extremely frustrating as a manager to have to spend your time answering phone calls or trying to call people and move people around. And when you're responsible for ordering food, distributing food, or shipping food, or supervising people that are there, and now you're sitting there trying to fill those positions or stand there at a register, it's just not fair. It's not fair, but it's also not good business sense. You can't, something's going to give. Staff training is highly recommended in here. I also want to mention, it is also, there's a training program that the food service company uses. There's programs that they use now. I was extremely impressed by the systems that are in place. They do it very, very well. What I'm referring to here, though, is if we're going to start putting in scratch cooking, we better know how to cook. We want the staff to be able to know how to cook. You could have great ingredients, and if you got people that are just going to mess it up or not serve it right, you've wasted all that time, energy, and effort. So training beyond what you're already doing well now, but to start to put into culinary boot camps or learning journeys, I call them, is to get people to go see what somebody else is doing. If there's example of a district or another facility they should see, get out there and see it, get great ideas. Now, moving to the other community spoke on this particular wheel. This is now administration, you all, leaders, external stakeholders as well. Public communication, how we get the message out there, or what the message has been. Gosh, social media is everywhere, and you all have I'm even using, it goes deeper into this report, but I'm using the example of the Facebook account. There's a Facebook for parents in the district, and not surprisingly, it can be a land-all place for venting and complaints and criticism. Well, there's, we should really look at monitoring that and providing feedback quick and, expediently and accurately and, responsive, and pay attention to it. Also, when it comes to supporting, when it comes to communication, there's a whole initiative, and I'll talk about it in the fiscal responsibility spoke, because there's a great opportunity for revenue for putting breakfast in the classroom, which means now kids are going to actually eat in the classroom. To do that, their food service is ready and willing to attempt to put that program in, and Whitson's is in support. But there's going to need to be, especially in these elementary schools where we'd put this in, there needs to be principals on board to understand that there needs to be a system in place. Custodians are probably going to need to be involved to clear and move things away. There needs to be support right from an administrative role down. When I spoke with some of the food service managers, they said that, we want to do that. We're concerned we may not get that administrative support. So you'll see that, that's an area too that you can assist with. You guys, the food service director, I think at one time used to participate in principals meetings. Get there, right? If you indeed have a new food service director or a new captain of the ship, have him or her be a regular part of those particular principal meetings. And then you have a food corps resource that I think you've had for about 3 years. Not too many districts have that. That person use it. And there has been some interaction, but when it came down to communication flybys, one of the big areas was the food corps worker felt they weren't involved with food service initiatives. And it's like having a great tool for a kitchen and not using it. So pay that person the opportunity to work, continue that valuable asset. Elise is the food corps person this current year. I know she was considering staying on for a second year, but I'm not sure if she has decided that or not yet. She was going to be doing it, but regardless, if there's a new person, use that food corps person as well. Under communication, I don't know anybody who's been in it. Well, we've all been in relationships, and communication can make or break every single relationship. And there's a lot of opportunity, I think, here from all stakeholders. There needs to be an improvement on what one hand knows what the other hand is doing. And the best way to go about that I've seen in other districts, create a lead team and put it to work. Now, what the heck is a lead team? You'll see in the report what that means, but have a small, powerful group of people that are going to get involved with, at the start, taking action on this report. But it should represent the food service leader, the director, perhaps maybe one other person from the food service. It should involve someone from administration that's responsible for probably financial aspects, or someone from that office, so that they're the ones that are going to need to say, okay, well, wait a minute, what does it cost? Well, the food service could say this is what it would cost if we want to try this. There should be the external stakeholders involved. They're going to put in the envelope and say, why aren't we trying to do this? Why can't we do this? And the food service can say, we can, but this is what, the administrator will say, well, what does it cost? Student should be involved. There should be a couple of students, perhaps parents. It doesn't have to be parents. But that team, God knows there's enough committees, there's enough groups to get together. But if you can, and get the wellness committee, have someone from the wellness committee be on that team too. But if they can take the responsibility and understand and be given the responsibility to say, you know what, we gotta start understanding what the left hand is doing, and the right hand needs to know what, and the left hand needs to know what the right hand is doing. They can drive this pretty darn well. The lead team, or a part of the lead team, create a marketing plan. I don't believe, from what I could gather, there isn't any marketing plan now for the food program. Everything that we're doing and that I've talked about up to this point really would be a moot point if we're not making sure people understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. You know, it's one thing to change a menu, but if we don't provide the customer the background as to what's going on and why it's happening, a lot of times you'll hear kids say, wait a minute, you know, I don't like that, I don't want this. You gotta get there, you've gotta create a plan so that everybody's on board. You gotta educate and promote these new concepts. Wellness policy. You just approved a brand new, very comprehensive wellness policy. Use it as a roadmap for food. And the food service director and perhaps one other manager or someone from the food service should be on the wellness committee. Get food, again, there's people on a wellness committee, there's people working their tails off to run a food service, and they're happening on islands. And, you know, one will say, well, you know, we bring suggestions to the food service, and sometimes they're receptive, and sometimes it just sounds like there's reasons why we can't do things, or we've tried to do those things. When in reality, as an ex-operator, perhaps that's really the case. But there's a way to answer and respond as well, to say, you know what, let's see, that might not work, but let's try this. So there needs, get these islands and make them one big island. And then there's all kinds of opportunities for publicity. You know, you've got a newsletter now that goes out. There's some redundancy in client reports and newsletters. This is more driven to Whitson's, is to streamline that, go to just one. But there's some districts now that are beginning to even utilize videos or market or try to get positive public publicity in the news. So let the news come in and do a feature story on some of this new stuff you're doing. That's that whole marketing plan. Drive the positive of why and what you're doing. Don't wait. You know, you're going to have to be proactive with that. All kinds of direction for good, positive publicity. And then the last spoke on the wheel, not the least important by all means, is we need to be, you know, is looking at fiscal responsibility or revenue, or administrating fiscal responsibilities. One of the big disconnects, we could fall into the communication piece, but it really, I want to put it under here, is our operating budgets. And it's not a typo, there is an S at the end of that. So currently there are two operating budgets, or there's perhaps a different term used for them. One is one is the districts for food service, and the other Whitson's puts together for operating perspective. They both are right, but they both don't include some of the same pieces. You know, and when one entity, you all were coming to me saying, you know, we have to subsidize this program year in and year out. And then when Whitson's gave me their operating budget or performance from last year, there was a significant surplus. And I said, wait a minute. You know, there's a major flyby here. There are entities that, you know, that just, and nobody was doing anything wrong. Whitson's was doing their thing and the district was doing their things. You've got to get together and synchronize those, that's all. So that at least all parties, if indeed, you know, you're finding that you're operating where you needed to subsidize, then the provider needs to help you do a better job with that. So synchronize those two budgets. Uncollected funds. This is not something that is not uncommon across the country. It's where students don't pay and can't pay or just don't get behind. You're probably talking about $40,000 last year in uncollected funds. It's a very sticky subject where the food service personnel are put in a really difficult position to say, you know, what do they say? So you've got policies in place here. You know, you've got to make sure those policies are being followed as far as providing an alternative meal. Make sure they're done. You have just implemented a new email system to try to get out to parents to say, by the way, you're behind, you need this, which is new, which is good. So hopefully that's going to help. And perhaps, have a better solicitation way to get, to get these parents to not get behind. Breakfast opportunities, as I mentioned, you'll see in the report, you guys fall way down on the list within Connecticut's No Kid Hungry. There's a study and program as far as what districts are taking advantage of selling breakfast. Food service is a business. The more meals you sell, the more revenue you have. And if with the breakfast program, again, with the National School Lunch subsidies and program that is providing you revenue, you want to promote that whole breakfast piece. So work with Food Corps. I understand they just got a grant to continue to put programs in. Put that breakfast in the classroom, and in the high schools, grab and go. These kids, they're not going to want to grab a plate and sit down. Then give them what they want. Some of the schools in the country these days, they've got these really great smoothies pre-made. Grab it, pay for it, go. So push your breakfast. There's a tremendous opportunity there. Continuing with fiscal and administrative. This one here, I think he's going to really need to, I would commission part of the lead team, maybe even Whitson's, to understand community eligibility provision, CEP. That's where school districts that are over 41% free and reduced qualified can be eligible for what used to be called the universal meal, or every student can eat. And you get reimbursed from the USDA for every meal that you serve through them. Your district, free and reduced, the way I understood it, I believe is at 54%, or just over 50%, you qualify. Between the breakfast and the lunch, look into this. There may be a tremendous way to drive revenue. There's a lot of paperwork involved. There are pros and cons, but I highly recommend you check into that. And then this gets into operating budgets and looking at ways to manage your costs and expenses better. I mentioned the two budgets, and when I was sharing with the Whitson's regional managers, they, some of the line items that weren't on theirs, we were asking, like repair and other costs. Evaluate what you're spending your money on. There's a significant amount of money going out annually on repair agreements or contracts for refrigeration. Bid. Use your management company to help you streamline, some of your operating expenses, your other direct other operating expenses. So that was a fast 30,000 foot blast of what's in the report that you all have. And I open up and welcome opportunity for your questions, your comments.
Do you have any recommendations for first steps? I mean, what's the low-hanging fruit here that you would...
Get that lead team established and give them direction to give them a charter, I guess, responsibility, and to look through this. I would also, you're looking at wrapping up this school year. Plans are already in place as a business, food service a business, to look at for opening for next year. So I would meet with your food service provider and make a suggestion to see what they can do to help change up that leadership that I mentioned. Should be undertaken, which includes hiring an executive chef, which then would include evaluating your menus and looking at what you can do with your menus and what you can, what your facilities are, and what you can enhance how you can enhance those facilities to better enhance your menu.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions, concerns? Cheryl?
So I'm all for breakfast, since that's the most important meal of the day. However, I just need to know a little bit more about the breakfast in the classroom, as opposed to having it like in a general area where the lunchroom is. The first thing that would come to mind is like the cleanup. Like if you have it in one location, you've just got one place to clean
Sure.
up. But if it's in the classroom, then you've got many places to clean up, and then you're thinking about rodents and bugs and things like that. So I just need to know a little bit more about the breakfast in the classroom.
Great points. And there are resources with No Kid Hungry in the state that have put together production plans so that the food can be brought from the point that it's brought into the classroom to the point and when there should be consuming it, like what other programs or activities are going on while they're having breakfast, whether it's announcements, whether there's other type of homeroom or group building or group activities that need to happen. And then lastly, what happens to the waste, where, it's got to go into the kids have got to bus it, throw it away, and then someone needs to pick it up. So that's why I said usually custodians need to be involved and need to be involved with the plan. It's not as difficult when you lay it out in a plan and you communicate with the key players that need to be involved, the principals, custodians, food service. It's being done very successfully, and a great resource is the Connecticut No Kid Hungry and others. They've got plans and maps already laid out.
So basically, you're saying that it should be in the classroom and integrated around other activities? As
No,
opposed to
I guess it could.
I guess I'm a little bit confused as to why it needs to be in the classroom as opposed to in one central location, in many different classrooms.
Please.
Yeah, sorry. Hi, Sherelle.
Hi, Lisa. How are
Lisa
you?
Lenskol from Norwalk Rose. We recently got a grant to do a pilot for breakfast in classroom at Brookside School, which we're going to be doing this month. So I just wanted to kind of help out to let you know what it would look like in Norwalk. So the agreement that we've put together, the process that we put together is within the body of the grant, we're actually buying specially color-coded garbage cans that are specifically going to be for breakfast. Call it red, okay? So each classroom would have a red garbage bin. The breakfast is going to be picked up from a grab-and-go cart when the children walk into the room, and their waste is going to be put back into that bag that they took and then put into the red bin. The red bin is then going to be put outside the classroom when breakfast is over, so the waste is out of the classroom. Brookside wanted to utilize some of the more senior students. They have a leadership team at their school, and the leadership team is then going to go with the custodian and gather up the bins at the end of it.
If I could just also add, with respect to breakfast, this issue was identified and actually raised in the state administrative review that was conducted last year. They do a review once every 3 years of all the food service programs in the state, and the individual who did that review who led that review happens to also be in charge of the breakfast programs for the state of Connecticut, and so she had a lot of great advice for us there, and she had indicated as well that breakfast in the classroom, grab and go kind of situation is the most effective way to go, that it is working in many schools around the state and around the country. You do have to plan it, and you do have to have support and buy-in from the school community and from the principal, and that's why in the case of Brookside, we've got a principal there who's interested in experimenting with this and giving it a try. So what we'd like to do is have a supportive community that wants to make a go of it and hopefully be able to demonstrate for the rest of the district that yes, it can work. Obviously, if there's issues, we'll have to deal with those, but everything the experts are telling us is that you can greatly increase your breakfast participation with a grab-and-go situation with breakfast in the classroom, and that has direct implications for the financial sustainability of food service as well, because there are additional grant funds that come along with those programs.
I don't want to belabor, but are there other teachable moments, like recycling and things? I know you talk about the red bin, but are there teachable, moments with it? I'll look it up, I just... Yeah,
No, there's definitely teachable moments, and I think a lot of that will revolve around nutrition. Could it be about recycling? Sure, but then that's going to make the process a little bit more convoluted, and we just want to start with the process, learn from it, gather some data. We're going to be doing some surveys, both students pre and post, teachers pre and post, as well as parents. So we'll know kind of really what the real issues are, and then we can all work together to put together a plan
that you want to do the breakfast. I think that's great. So I'll look it up and learn a little bit more.
Okay,
just one other quick question. Norwalk Bears, the culinary program, I thought it was at Norwalk High. Were they not involved in this process?
I'm sorry.
The Little Bears Cafe, did you look at that in the course of your work?
This is the student-run cafe?
Well, it's a product of the culinary class.
Yeah, there were a couple of attempts to meet with the culinary folks, and there were some challenges with scheduling, and it didn't sound like there was, our time ran out. There really wasn't a lot going on. We were looking more into the regular dining rooms, dining halls and serveries.
Anything else? Any other questions, comments? All right.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, Jim. If I could just say one thing about this. This report gives us a lot to think about, right? The first comprehensive report we've had of food service. We've had chronic complaints about the quality of food, the eating environment, all of that. Really, this is the first time we've had something this comprehensive that gives us a direction forward. One of the things I'd like the board to reflect on is that, like so many things in our school system, we have a structural condition that grew up over time, right? And is not necessarily effective for the current time. And so we have this quite unusual hybrid system where we employ the food service workers, and then we employ a management company to manage the program. But as was pointed out to you tonight, the management company doesn't feel they can manage the food service workers because there are workers. So, I think we have to conclude that our current system does not give us the capacity to implement these recommendations. And Tom and I, in the future, will be bringing you some recommendations around how we do that. But I can tell you that, we're as you know, our core business is education and instruction. And we're getting better at our core business. But things like cleaning, transportation, preparing food, these are not our core businesses. And they are quite often better done, and we get a better capacity to implement something like this when we can allow someone for whom this is their core business to be able to do this. And maybe the only district employee should be the executive chef that provides direction in terms of meals. But I'm hoping that Tom and I, in the next couple of months, can make some recommendations to you on a path forward that would give us the capacity to implement these recommendations. I don't think we have that capacity currently.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll now go to the last item on the agenda, which is public comments. Mr. Barbas.
Yes, we have 2 public comments. As everyone knows, they're limited to 3 minutes, and I believe in a workshop, are they limited to today's topics, or is that not the case?
No, the
okay.
policy doesn't say that.
Okay. So our first speaker is Joe Janderko.
Thank you. Good evening. I stand here this evening in response to the recent comments in a published editorial in Norwalk Hour about the impact of middle school redesign. The middle school redesign program has granted some success, but has also generated just as many concerns and questions. The block of teaching time allows for better engagement of the material, but this engagement comes at a deep cost. The cost is both high for students, certified, and other staff throughout the NPS system. Teachers will be asked to teach multiple subjects, plus an enrichment class. Some teachers will be required to teach a subject matter for the first time with no professional development beforehand. This year, we are assured that we will know exactly what we are teaching before the summer starts. The district then seems intent on establishing summer as the time to present professional development, but this is not when most teachers are available. This is great on an optional basis for extra learning, but things that we are required to know, the summer is not the prime time to present them. In the middle school level, 2 of the 3 teachers on the vertical teams at each grade level will have an increased student load. All of the teachers have an increased class size due to the reduced number of teachers. I ask you, how does a teacher with an increased student load above 150 students, new course material with new untrained, untested vertical team leaders to support them accomplish the goals established by this Board of Ed? It will be extremely taxing, just like it was this past year. We at the NFT are concerned about this last year, and our concerns turned out to be well-founded on the first days of school. It took until October to sort out schedules for many students, and it took many weeks for teachers to find their footing with the surprise schedules that many were given. Where is the content-specific PD? Where are the needed supplies and materials to outfit a classroom? Where is the opportunity to engage in this material and become an expert for our students? The teachers of the NFT are the true professionals who will overcome these obstacles for the betterment of our students, like we did this past year. We do what is necessary to ensure our students achieve and our schools improve. I continue to ask for a pilot of the vertical teams in the middle school redesign. There was a need last year for readjusting and the theoretical models to the actual building reality. There will be a need again this year. Theoretical models needed to implement this with care. I asked the Board of Ed to encourage, I'm trying to rush because it's so late. Again, I asked the BOE to encourage the district to provide clear information to the very teachers who will implement these radical changes. Professional development during the summer does not reach most of our staff. We have families and other responsibilities. We are being asked to give up grade level teams that have served our students well in exchange for vertical houses, which do not seem as well designed for the goal of small learning communities and improved relationships. We are headed for another September of chaos.
Our next speaker is Mary Yordan.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Mary Yordan, 9 Mott Avenue. We heard lots of interesting things tonight. We embraced the idea of an improvement to the school lunch program. It's a big climate issue. At many levels, we can do a lot better. So it's nice to hear people talking and planning, and we're looking forward to improvements and looking forward to joining you in planning for some of those improvements. Also, we celebrate your announcement about Autism Month. This is a very lonely thing to be the parent of an autistic child, and it's nice to have that support from the district in an announcement like this to bring awareness to our whole community. In addition, every year around this time, the Fund for Teachers Fellowships are announced. It is getting to be that time again, somewhere in early April. So I thought I would alert you to that joyful time of year when Mrs. Dalio herself makes visits to building principals, come out and make a big fuss over our newly named Fund for Teachers Fellows. So I'm looking forward to that. We have many individuals and groups seeking facts about next year. We have learned a lot about the ESY program. We're really pleased to have had the opportunity to discuss details about ESY with the Pupil Personnel Service Consultation Group that meets, and they did share some concerns about, although there are clear benefits to having the program in the school buildings, we're also concerned about the specialists that will have to travel, like OT, PT, speech and language therapists. But we are really happy to be able to discuss that with administrators and working to make these programs better. We also had the opportunity to meet with middle school consultation this month, and we shared our concerns about next year's implementation for middle school programs. We're not the only ones asking questions about the details of the implementation. Mr. Ginderko identified several of them. We were here last year, as Mr. Lyons pointed out in his hour piece. We were here last year expressing some concerns, and those concerns did turn out to be well-founded. And Joe just mentioned some of those ideas. In addition to what he mentioned, okay, we've been working on multiple grievances and to try to resolve arbitration and other places the problems that occurred from last year. We're just getting finished with them. We don't want to be battling on that level. We'd rather meet, hear some details, work out how that they can work. When we met in consultation, we shared some concerns. I'm looking forward to having them worked out. We would be more confident if there was more information being shared at the building level with our administrators, having our administrators sharing them with our teachers. Our administrators are doing the best they can at central office, at principals and the teachers, but there's precious little facts to be found. We really need to have lots of conversations at all and in between all of those levels to make sure that things are worked out well for a smoother implementation.
3 minutes.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mike?
No, that's it, sorry.
No, Missy.
I'm sorry?
Oh, okay, sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Mary Teresa Missy Conrad. I live at 37 Stonecrop Road in Norwalk here, and we've lived here, my husband and I, since 1971. As you know me, kind of as somebody who works in our community, I'm also a member of the Religious Society of Friends, the Quakers. And I just want to say tonight is the 50th, tonight, the 50th anniversary of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's greatest speech, Beyond Vietnam, April 4th, 1967, exactly 1 year before he was assassinated. And in that speech is that oft-quoted sentence, "A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death." We've asked our Mayor Rilling, our Quaker meeting has taken a stand to ask Mayor Rilling to join the U.S. Conference of Mayors recommended Mayors for Peace. We started asking Mayor Rilling in 2014. I have here for each of you a copy of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. This is no radical group. You know, the Union of Concerned Scientists and others are talking of this, and we just have to get together and work on climate change. We are one human race sharing one beautiful earth. Last week I read that if you get off the plane in India, the chemical smell is terrible. We cannot get correspondence in China. We only have one atmosphere, and we need people on the boards of education, not just peculiar people like Quakers. Julia Ward Howe said she couldn't get anyone interested after the Civil War and Mother's Day, except little old Quaker women. We need you to speak up, time to break silence. And I have one of these for each of you. And we want to ask Norwalk to join. Stanford and Fairfield, Connecticut as Mayors for Peace. Thank you.
Thank you. And that, I think, concludes public comments.
All right. Since there is no further business before the board tonight, is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Kasimis, second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate. Approved. Meeting is adjourned. Just following the normal Norwalk Public Schools. It's always been done that way.
That's right. You took the night off work?
Yes.
So. I think what it's going to be at this point is we're just going to do something under the tree at Cranberry Park and then call it. I don't even know when we do a reception. That costs money, surely.
Just your chair coat and get up there.
Here we go.
Yeah.
We'll just find some random party at Cranberry Park and just join them and act like we're a part of it.
You get so concerned because heaven isn't true, like 150 students, 75 students.
He just makes stuff up.
Oh my goodness, I know.
Talk about,
Teaching multiple classes. We've been through that. Nobody's doing that.
and we all know it. Don't leave me, I gotta say.
I'll see you.
Good night, Eric. Take care.
Heidi.
See you later.
Sherelle, well, have a great night.
I'll see you tomorrow. We're gonna have fun. Oh, you have to leave early, right?
I'm going to stick around. I'm going to be there for a little bit. I'm getting a ride there, and then so I'm going to head to the event going on here. So
First time
I'll
I've
be
ever seen her
there
show up here.
probably like
Well,
right at
she
6.
keeps getting-
Okay.
And after leaving
So I guess she's
45.
We're gonna have fun.
I heard.
It's not